Now that you have configured your application for high availability and disaster recovery using InfoScale, let's now look at a feature that validates your high availability and disaster recovery configuration called FireDrill. From the Central Management Console volume, you can see two clusters, the East cluster, which is the production site, and the West cluster, which is the disaster recovery site. In this example, each site is composed of two nodes and has service groups defined to provide high availability and disaster recovery for PostgreSQL. From the production site, you can invoke a FireDrill to validate the high availability and disaster recovery readiness of your environment. When the high availability FireDrill is invoked on a service group, a report is generated. It provides information on the ability of the local site to handle failures occurring on configured resources or node. In this scenario, a success of each resource within the PostgreSQL service group indicates that the PostgreSQL is able to fail over from one node onto another node within the local cluster. As for the disaster recovery FireDrill, it will automatically online a FireDrill service group with an FD extension at the disaster recovery site. In this service group example, a FireDrill service group for the data resource is defined. The data FireDrill service group involves resources that would take a snapshot of the replicated data and then mounting it on the nodes at the disaster recovery site. Executing the disaster recovery FireDrill in the production site would enable and place online the data FireDrill service group and the disaster recovery site. Since it is a snapshot of the replicated data and mounted on the nodes in the disaster recovery site, there will be no disruption to the production site. In addition to validating that your disaster recovery site can take over in case of a failure on the production site, one can use a snapshot copy to do other off-host processing of your data to avoid performance loss at your production site, such as application development and tests, malware scanning, offline backups of your data, or generate reports to conduct analytics. If you want to validate the disaster recovery readiness of multiple service groups, under Solutions, you can create a plan to online and offline the service group with FD extensions in the disaster recovery site. For enabling the FireDrill service group with FD extensions, it would require a solution definition that would first online the data FireDrill service group that would take a snapshot and mount them, and then it will online the PostgreSQL FireDrill service group that would start PostgreSQL. For the disabled solution plan, the PostgreSQL FireDrill service group would first be placed offline and then the data FireDrill service group. Let's execute the Enable FireDrill plan so you can observe how both the service groups are placed online. To validate the execution of this FireDrill, from the command line of one of the nodes, we can see that the snapshot was mounted, and we can also connect to the PostgreSQL enabled in the disaster recovery site. Again, this does not affect the production site since we are using a snapshot of the replicated copy and PostgreSQL is running on one of the nodes in the disaster recovery site. Once you are done, you can then use the Disable FireDrill plan to offline the service groups. Being prepared for failures, malware attacks, and disasters is important for business continuity. Using InfoScale FireDrill feature helps in the readiness of your application and the handling of these types of events by checking your environment or running rehearsals to simulate a disaster recovery. Thank you for watching.